Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got another very interesting, little bit more old school oriented load to test out with an older choke as well that I think could be a little bit surprising. We've seen some interesting performances from these shells so far that actually have been surprisingly decent for what they are, and several of you guys wanted to see this combination, so we'll put them together and see what we can get. But as for the shells we've got today, I brought out some more of the older Remington Nitro Magnum shells. They are a 12 gauge, 3 inch, 1 7/8 ounce payload of lead 4s moving about 10 feet per second. Now these are not technically a turkey shell. They're a heavy field Magnum, high brass, buffered payload, full length wad type of shell. They're loaded very similar to what the Remington Nitro turkeys are, and they are the same spec, but I believe something to do with the lead compound is a little bit different. I think one is plated and the other isn't, or something along that line. There are several of you guys that commented about it the last time we tried these shells, but so far these older Nitro Magnum shells have honestly been better performers than any of the other Remington lead turkey loads out there. So we'll see what they can give us through today's kind of old school choke setup as well. But as for that setup, I brought out my Remington 1187 with a 28-inch barrel on it, and for that choke we've got an old school Remington super full straight rifled turkey choke on here. I'll pop up a picture over here for what the inside of the choke looks like. Definitely a pretty interesting design. We have a number of chokes today that are straight rifled as well, but considering this choke was from the 90s into the early 2000s era, definitely a pretty interesting design for what it is, but it's shown us some pretty decent looking results so far with a number of shells, and several of you guys wanted to see them with these old Nitro Magnums, so we'll see what it can do. But as for today's test, we're going to do everything the same as we usually do. Even though these are not technically a turkey shell, we're still going to have the turkey paper set up at 40 yards and the chronograph so we can get our velocity. So let's get you guys a view of that target and see how these old Nitro Mags can do through that Remington super full straight rifle choke. Could be decent, could be terrible, I don't know, but let's take our shot and see what we get. Alright, so that shell gave us 1312 through the chrono. The boss claim is only 1210, so we're 102 feet per second above that claim. But I believe the last time we tested these through a 24-inch barrel and an 870, they were mid to upper 1200 range, and they are a pretty hot loaded shell in the recoil department as well. So I don't think that's too far out of the realm of possibility, but we're definitely starting to get up and move on out for a lead 4 for sure. But how did they perform down there at 40 through that old straight rifle choke? Let's go check it out and see. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. Now, right off the bat, yes, we do have a dead turkey. There are a couple right through the back edge of the brain, and several more down the spine. So, yes, you would have absolutely gotten that bird, and there's nowhere left or right on that paper that he could have gone to and gotten through your pattern. So, it is a good enough pattern for a 40-yard turkey hunt. But I do think our main core was a touch off to the right, but still, I don't think it really would have made a massive difference here. And overall, I would say this is an okay pattern. It's definitely nothing that's going to blow us away by any means, but it's good enough to get the job done. I think the first time we tested these shells a couple weeks ago through an old True Lock choke, I believe they were a touch better, but still, for a lead Remington load, that's not horrible. That's probably about the best we've seen from any of the Nitro turkeys or the Premier turkeys as well, and these shells have shown better potential than those have. But still, that is a usable pattern from an old school load through an old school choke that would be good enough to get you a turkey with it out at 40. Moving in here and looking at our core, which I think is closer to the top right corner of that turkey target, it's definitely nothing that's going to blow us away. There are some smaller voids and stuff in it, so it's not perfectly even. Outside of that, it does give you leeway, but we do have a little bit of splotchy stuff around the edges as well, maybe a few flyers down there at the bottom and stuff, so not the most perfectly even pattern overall. These are a lead 4, which can be a little tricky sometimes anyway, and you don't have quite as high of a pellet count like you would in a 5 or a 6 shot to fill in some of those gaps. So this pattern isn't terrible, but it's nothing super amazing to write home about either. I believe that old Remington straight rifled super full is roughly a 665 constriction. It's kind of hard to measure it with the design of it, but I believe that is technically what it's supposed to be. But I do think these did better through that old 665 True Lock as well. So maybe they just prefer a straight up smooth choke rather than having porting or rifling or anything of that nature in them. Either way, for a lead Remington turkey shell, that's still not a terrible result. It's a pattern that I would hunt with if that's the shell I had. I don't think I would push it really any farther past 40 yards, but 40 and in, it would still be perfectly fine for you out to 40 yards. And here's the wad from that shell. Very typical Remington stuff here. It's the same wad they use in a lot of their other stuff. You can see that rib down the inside of the pedals there. But there's nothing stuck down in there. There's no major damage or anything to it. You can kind of maybe see some of those darker stripes along the tail here from that straight rifling, but it's not anything super aggressive in that choke to really snag on much of anything. But the wad in of itself looks very much normal. Nothing out of the ordinary. So nothing really too special to see here. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about that pattern right there? For a turkey load in general, that's an okay pattern. It's not horrible, but it's nothing great either. For a Remington shell, that's decent. That's probably up there with some of the better patterns we've gotten from the Nitros or the Premier turkeys. And once again, I still think these older Nitro Mag shells have a little bit higher potential to them than the newer Remington turkey loads do. I don't think this is the best performing choke combo for them. We have seen a little bit better out of them, so I still think they're worth trying through a few different chokes and seeing what we can actually get out of them. But we might be a little bit more limited since they are a lead 4. I'd like to try and find some of the 5s and 6s to see how they do as well, but we'll just have to see what happens as we continue to test these. This combo is good enough, but I still think we can do better with them as well. But leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you ever used any of the old Nitro Magnum shells or one of those old Remington super full straight rifle chokes? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Is that a pattern or a combo that you would hunt with? Or would you want to see it a little more condensed down than that? And what other shells or choke combos do you want to see with either the old Nitro Mags or that Remington super full straight rifle choke? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be down in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it. So I'll see y'all in the next one.